Thanks for watching the 3rd Diablo class breakdown for Brothers Insanity. This is Ashen bringing you the Demon Hunter breakdown. We also have a Barbarian and Wizard video I'd recommend checking out if you haven't already. Before we get started, I'll dive into a brief explanation of the way skills work. It's much different from Diablo 2 as there are no skill trees or skill points obtained to increase skills at each level. Instead, the player is given 6 slots which your skills will be assigned to. You also unlock runes for these abilities that change or buff the ability in some way. The Demon Hunter is unique in that you have 2 different types of resources called Hatred and Discipline. Some skills require Discipline to use, while others require Hatred. Hatred generates more quickly when attacking enemies, and Discipline refills slowly over time. The first and only ability the Demon Hunter starts off with is called Hungering Arrow, and has a chance of piercing through a target, allowing the arrow to seek out multiple targets, or zip back for a second hit on a single target. Hungering Arrow does a little more damage than the standard attack, but with the possibility of hitting multiple targets, and the fact that it does not cost Hatred or Discipline, makes it a clear choice over shooting regular arrows. The ability unlocked at level 2 is a secondary skill for the right mouse slot and is called Impale. This ability uses 25 Hatred, and does about twice as much damage as Hungering Arrow. Since it takes Hatred to use though, you obviously can't spam it like crazy, but it's very handy when you need to deal a large amount of damage to elite monsters or bosses. The third ability you get as a Demon Hunter is Entangling Shot. This is a primary skill in the same slot as Hungering Arrow. It does less damage, but chains up to 2 enemies together, slowing their movement speed. It can be used on single targets as well, of course. Entangling Shot is very helpful for kiting mobs, and even though it does less damage than Hungering Arrow, it is guaranteed to damage 2 targets close to each other. Next, the Demon Hunter opens a new slot and gets the trap skill, Caltrops. The Demon Hunter places the trap at her feet, and any enemies within the circle, or that move into the circle, spring the trap, which slows all enemies in the trap. Once sprung, the trap lasts 6 seconds. This again adds for very effective kiting, and can be helpful when trying to flee. Level 5 brings a new skill to the same slot in Impale called Rapid Fire. While this ability takes a good amount of Hatred to use, it's pretty devastating. The Demon Hunter unleashes a stream of arrows that damage enemies in its path. This deals nearly as much damage as Impale, but is much faster and more deadly. At level 6, the Demon Hunter unlocks the first rune for Hungering Arrow called Puncturing Arrow. This rune increases the likelihood of Hungering Arrow to puncture the enemy. Now this skill, along with Caltrops, will eliminate the need for Entangling Shot, as you can easily kite while doing higher damage to multiple enemies. Another rune is unlocked at level 7 for the Demon Hunter, and this time it's for Impale. The rune is called Impact, and gives Impale a chance to knock back and stun the target for a short time. This can be really helpful when used on bosses or elite monsters, as they can be stunned continuously. A well-timed Impale with Impact can stop an enemy from using a harmful ability, or simply keep them at a distance. If I had to choose, I'd probably stick with Rapid Fire though, since it does so much damage, and you already have multiple abilities that will keep enemies at a distance. At level 8, the Demon Hunter unlocks a new defensive skill called Smokescreen, in the same slot as Caltrops. The Demon Hunter disappears in a puff of smoke for 2 seconds, meaning enemies can't follow or attack the Demon Hunter. While this ability is kind of fun and a neat escape tool, it's hard to use it seriously when you have so many better options for skills. There are 2 unlocks for the Demon Hunter at level 9. You unlock a new slot and a new hunting skill called Vault. This ability allows the Demon Hunter to zip across the screen through enemies without being damaged up to 35 yards away. This is another neat trick the Demon Hunter can use, but mostly I would use it to get around the levels faster. The second unlock for the Demon Hunter is a rune for Entangling Shot called Chain Gang. This rune increases the number of targets that Entangling Shot hits to a total of 4 enemies. At this point, it really comes down to what skill you'd rather have slowing enemies. I feel the Demon Hunter should always have some means of kiting an enemy around, so if you like Caltrops, I wouldn't use Entangling Shot, or vice versa. At level 10, the Demon Hunter unlocks 2 passive abilities. These abilities stay active the entire time and don't require Discipline or Hatred to use. The first is called Tactical Advantage and gives the Demon Hunter a speed boost when using Smokescreen, Vault, or an ability obtained later called Evasive Fire. The other passive ability is called Thrill of the Hunt and causes one of the Demon Hunter's shots to immobilize a target every 10 seconds. Since you are only able to choose one passive ability at level 10, I stuck with Tactical Advantage as it seemed to give me a bit more control. While I find Thrill of the Hunt may be useful, you can't choose when it goes off, it just happens on whatever enemy you're attacking every 10 seconds. When the Demon Hunter reaches level 11, she unlocks another 2 abilities. This time a primary skill called Bola Shot, and a rune for Rapid Fire called Withering Fire. Bola Shot wraps around the target and after 1 second explodes, dealing damage to the target and any other enemies in close proximity. Even though this is the first skill that the Demon Hunter gets that can be classified as AoE, it's not a very strong AoE. You can't fire the Bola into the middle of a group because it hits the first mob in your way, which means you don't get the most out of the explosion. The bola is also frustrating since it takes a second to explode, so once you shoot an enemy, you have to wait for them to explode, or shoot a second bola onto the same enemy. You can try shooting around and spreading out your bolas, but you aren't often surrounded by that many monsters, and it's usually better to use Hungering Arrow to hit multiple targets in a row. The Withering Fire rune for Rapid Fire thankfully makes up for Bola's shortcoming. The rune reduces the hatred cost of Rapid Fire and sets them on fire, engulfing enemies in flames when shot. This rune is a no-brainer and of course should be used anytime you would use Rapid Fire. 2 more abilities unlock at level 12 for the Demon Hunter, a new ability called Chakram in the second ability slot, and a rune for Caltrops called Hooked Spines. The Chakram is a strange ability. It's nice for dealing damage to enemies in a line, as the Chakram continues on through groups of enemies. However, it has a very strange path and is uncontrolled. If you really care to use Chakram, it will take you a while to get used to how the pathing works. If you have enemies at the right distance, sending out multiple Chakrams can be pretty devastating. Personally, I'd rather use Rapid Fire since I have a little more control with my abilities. The rune Hooked Spines for Caltrops is a great improvement to the ability, and increases the slowing of enemies in the trap by 80%. With this rune on, Caltrops practically immobilizes enemies, and since you can put down multiple traps, you can easily keep them at a distance while you mow them down. Finally, level 13 caps us out in the beta, and gives the Demon Hunter 2 more abilities. One is a new passive ability called Vengeance, and the other is a hunting skill called Preparation. Preparation instantly restores all of the Demon Hunter's discipline, but has a 45-second cooldown. This ability can be nice if you're using multiple abilities that require discipline, such as Vault, Smokescreen, and Caltrops, but the 45-second cooldown seemed pretty hefty. While I was playing, I felt any ability was more helpful, considering for 45 seconds at a time, you wouldn't be able to even use that ability, making it a dead slot. The passive ability Vengeance gives the Demon Hunter 25 more to their maximum hatred, and restores 20 hatred and 2 discipline anytime you pick up a health globe. We have seen other abilities like this, and I feel they're extremely useful since the health orbs drop so often. In case you haven't seen health orbs before, they drop frequently from enemies to restore the player's health, and have replaced the need to spam potions for healing. This became my favorite choice for the passive abilities, unless I was running across the map, in which case I'd switch back to Tactical Advantage to run faster. And with that, we wrap up the Demon Hunter. Overall, it's a very interesting class, especially with the use of 2 different types of resource for abilities. Being an avid Diablo 2 fan, I felt like this was a neat combination of the Assassin and Amazon, ranged weapons with deadly traps. Next we will be posting the videos for Monk and Witch Doctor, so thanks for watching and stay tuned. See you all in Hell, May 15th.